So this is the mouth of the Weeki Wachee River, and this is where the mermaids perform. If you don't see the swirls on top of the water,
Yeah.
that's because straight down, about 117 feet, is the opening to the aquifer, and it's maybe about this big around. And out of that opening comes 117 million gallons of water daily,
Oh wow.
and it feeds the Weeki Wachee River. So it originates here, feeds Buccaneer Bay, where the people are swimming over there. And then if you go around the bend to the left, it goes 12 miles into the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh wow.
And it's really nice because pretty much the entire way, the clarity is just as it is here. 99.8% pure spring water, 74 degrees constantly, year-round. And the theater, as you see to the left, was built in the late 1950s. It's not the original theater. The original theater sat maybe 22 folks.
That's it. Wow.
This one holds 400. And this was built by ABC back in the mid to late 50s. And the theater itself, the components were built in Clearwater and then trucked over here, and then an assortment of underwater divers and welders sunk it right into the spring. And that's what keeps this park unique, is no one will ever be able to duplicate what we have here because of the environmental laws that are now in place. You're not going to be able to sink a 400-seat structure into a natural spring.
Yeah.
So the biggest misconception that most people have that have never been to the park are that the mermaids swim in a tank or an aquarium, and that's simply not the case. And it's very difficult sometimes to describe the location of where they swim until you see it firsthand.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that they swim in a natural spring. And I think that's what kind of helps with the charm and the mystique of this park, because you kind of get double the entertainment, because even though we're an attraction, which is the mermaid show itself, the natural resource that we have and the ability for our visitors to see this natural spring via the underwater theater is magnificent in its own right. Even without the mermaids in it, the opportunity to see a first magnificent spring firsthand through the underwater theater is just simply amazing.
Yeah, totally unique.
It's very unique, and we're very proud of it. We love our spring. We love all springs here in Florida. But when you're sitting in this theater and you just see this just beautiful natural resource that is the real Florida, and then you throw in beautiful mermaids, it just simply adds to the charm.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. But the job is a lot more difficult, I think, than people realize. These girls make it look easy, but when you combine the water temperature, which again is 74 degrees, and it sounds warm because most people think outside temperature, but water temperature is pretty cold, because your body temperature is 98.6, you go into 74 degree water, after about 30 to 40 minutes you lose a degree of body temperature, and that's when hypothermia can set in, and that's why our shows are only so long. But because of the coldness of the water, it's an open waterway, so all natural wildlife are able to come in, whether it's turtles, manatees, fish, anything else that inhabit the river. And then you throw in this current, because of the enormous amount of water coming from the aquifer. There's about a 5-mile-an-hour current that swoops right into there. So they have to fight all that. And they're not wearing any weight belts. They're not wearing any scuba gear, so to keep them warm. So it's a very physically and even mentally demanding job.
So it's all physical, it's all their skill, basically.
It's a lot of skill. Their buoyancy is strictly maintained through how much air they take in through the air hose and how much they exhale. So there's a lot of training that goes into being a mermaid here. Once we hire them, they immediately become scuba certified to teach them all the rules and safety precautions, because they are diving. And then we train them on the air hose. And before they even perform in any show, it usually takes about 3 to 6 months. Learning all the choreography, everything that becomes being a Weeki Wachee mermaid. It takes about a year to learn every part of the show. So there's a lot of training involved. So we don't get a lot of turnover because there's a lot of time and effort invested when we do hire one of the mermaids. And they feel it as well.
Yeah, you've got some long time, like the long time ones come back too, don't they, and do shows?
Yeah, we've got a rich history. We have 66 years that this park has been around. It's been here since 1947. And on our 50th anniversary, over 15 years ago, we invited a group of women who we called the former mermaids, and these were a group of women who at one point in time in their lives were a Weeki Wachee mermaid. And we were holding a kind of like a reunion, and we asked them to come back and perform, a show for that weekend. and was such a huge hit that since then we've asked them to come back every month. So 1 week in a month, they come back and perform. They're remarkable. They're very inspiring. You've got women who are in their late 40s, 50s, 60s.
Wow.
Had one that was in her 70s, but she has since retired again from being a mermaid. But when you watch them underwater, it's like they're 18 again.
Wow.
And if you ask them, they would swear this is the fountain of youth, and their performances prove that. But yeah, I mean, and that's what's nice about this park is we are part of that old Florida, old roadside attraction.
Yeah.
And I think people, although Disney and Universal are wonderful parks, the more modern parks, I think people really still like to remember what Florida used to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And we're part of that process. You had parks like Cypress Gardens, Silver Springs.
Yeah.
As a native Floridian, growing up in Ocala, I remember coming to Weeki Wachee. And I have such fond memories of this place, and every time I come to work and I walk on property, some of those childhood memories come back every day, and that's why I so much enjoy working here. And so I think, we as Floridians are very lucky to have a place like this. Go back and see what parks back in those days were like. And that's something that, now that we're a state park, we're obviously, we recognize the cultural significance of what the mermaids have meant to Florida tourism, but we also have this beautiful natural resource here and some wonderful resources that surround the spring that we're here to protect and preserve and educate the public. So we're very happy that we've got kind of that combo.
Yeah, how did that come about? Because I'm assuming that, at one time probably it was financially difficult and then the state was able to take it over?
Well, there have been so many roadside attractions since the emergence of I-75 took away, like Highway 19, which runs parallel to the park here, was one of the original thoroughfares. And when I-75 was constructed and Disney came up, it really took away a lot of the attendance and revenue that some of these roadside attractions enjoyed. A lot of them became extinct. But this park and the people that have run it over the past several decades have recognized some of the trends in Florida, such as the water parks.
Yeah.
And here locally, because we're not getting, especially now when you go to Orlando, you have for Disney parks, you have two Universal parks, you have SeaWorld, and an assortment of other attractions that people can enjoy. So it's no longer back in the 70s coming to Orlando, visiting the Magic Kingdom, and then you have the rest of the week of really nothing to do back in those days where you came and visited Weeki Wachee or Cypress Gardens. Now you can just stay in one place and one day hit Epcot, the next day hit Animal Kingdom, the next day hit Universal. So every day there's something to do in Orlando. So a lot of these attractions became extinct. But locally, we built with Buccaneer Bay back in the early 80s. Really wasn't much building to it other than erecting some flumes.
Yeah.
But really appealing to the more locals, because if you're local and you came to see a mermaid show, there really wasn't that much of an incentive to do a return visit numerous times throughout the year. But the water park afforded that luxury of people coming back week in after week out to come and swim in the spring. And so financially speaking, it really helped this attraction maintain itself. But the brand has always been the mermaids.
Yeah.
Just as Shamu is the SeaWorld and Mickey is the Disney, the brand of this attraction has always been the mermaids. So, we've been very fortunate. And I think the state of Florida, we were in this effort to help save it. And the state of Florida really recognized, again, the cultural significance that this park has. And because of the natural spring and the natural surroundings, they thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to take Weeki Wachee on as one of the newest state parks. And so we were very fortunate for that happening. It was the best thing that could have happened to this park.
Oh yeah, now it's preserved forever.
Absolutely.
And are you finding more like mermaids are kind of becoming the in thing now with those shows on, I think it's Animal Planet, and that, are you finding renewed interest kind of in
Well, we like to think there's always been an interest, and that's why this park has been here for so long. It doesn't hurt that there have been other programming, such as that show that you're speaking about. And I think, we didn't invent mermaids here, even at Weeki Wachee. They've been around for hundreds of years, and there's such a mystique about them, half fish and half woman. There's something very charming and alluring about a mermaid. I think now the modern media has kind of picked up on that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful. I mean, there has been a little bit more press surrounding our park because of it, and so we're very appreciative about that. And we want to make sure that we continue that alluring and charm that mermaids have. And, we've had it here for the last 66 years, so we like to think that we're the mecca of mermaids.
Yeah, you were the trendsetter.
That's right.
Back before mermaids were cool, you guys had mermaids.
We were there, absolutely.
That's great. And then let's see, there's one other thing I wanted to ask you. Do you see people too coming? I know you said you do a lot of locals, but people that were here at one time, maybe remember it with kids, grandkids, do they come back to share this
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
them?
We just don't have locals here. We've got people from all over the world that at one point in time have either come to the park or have heard of it. Again, keep in mind, in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, we were one of the premier attractions. There was no Disney. So when you can attract stars back in those days like Elvis Presley, to me, there was nobody bigger.
Yeah.
From a celebrity standpoint. I mean, you just say Elvis, I don't care what part of the world you're from, you know who you're talking about. But to have that kind of allure, even back then, meant a lot. But I think people now, if you say, have you ever been to Weeki Wachee? God, it's been 40 years. I remember going there when I was a little kid, but I haven't come back yet. But so there's always that story that people have been here at one point in time in their life, but are coming back to renew those memories again. And, or there's people who have heard of this park but never had the opportunity to come visit it. So I think that's something that we appreciate people coming to visit this park, whether it's for the first time or for the 10th time. We always enjoy when people come back. And what we want to do is maybe not, we don't really want to change that much. We don't want to have the special effects and animatronics that you might see at other parks, which are great. We're here to really showcase what the real Florida is all about, and that's this beautiful spring right here, and the wildlife that inhabit it. Educate people on why we should protect it, preserve it, but also protect and preserve the mermaid show. Florida tourism is what it is, and I'd like to think that this park for 66 years has been a major contributor to it.
Yeah, one of the first.
Yeah.
And would you say just one more quick thing for people like, they go to Disney, they go to Universal, the crowds are just insane.
Right.
Is this a laid back, like let's say the family, you just kind of want something more laid back. Is this a great option for that?
Yeah, this is a great option. I mean, again, Disney and Universal are great. It's got its place, and I frequent those parks and I enjoy them immensely. But if you really want that laid back, less expensive option, this is the perfect place for you. We're not a big park, although the park property is about over 500 acres, really 27 of it is just attraction park. You can literally walk from one end of the attraction to the other in probably 10 minutes of that. This time of the year in the summer, it is a little busier. We do have times when the mermaid shows are full. Obviously with a 400-seat theater, you can't put 600 people in the theater.
Yeah.
So we do have capacity issues, especially in the summertime. So and for those wishing to visit, expect that, just as you would in any other park.
Yeah.
But you're still not going to have the hustle and bustle and standing in long lines like you would in the theme parks. And for a rate of only $13 for adults and $8 for kids, from a financial standpoint,
and no parking fee.
It's hard to pass that up. And I'm not saying don't frequent those other parks, but keep us as an option.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's still a fun day. Whether you're here, Universal or Disney, it's still a fun day. It's something that I would say, not just Weeki Wachee, but even the state of Florida has 160. If not, and we just actually acquired some of the Greenway and Trails parks, so a little over 170 natural state parks that people can enjoy, and they can find those by going online. But yeah, it's still an attraction. It's still a wonderful outing, but a lot less expensive and still fun.
Okay, so I see you have a really neat old Florida souvenir here, and you said this is actually an original.
Yeah, this is one of the old Florida things that we've always talked about, that we always wanted to bring back, with the old Mold-O-Rama wax figures. And I remember getting them as a little kid, and as soon as you got it, a little hot, it smelled so good. And And when there was an opportunity to bring one here, that's what we did. And when we contacted the company that had a Mold-A-Rama machine, we found out that through second generation, he still had the original mold from the time that the Mold-A-Ramas were first brought to parks. It was in the 60s, I assume the 60s and 70s. So we were thrilled when we had an opportunity to bring the original mold of Weeki Wachee here. So yeah, we got a couple of machines throughout the park that we can get. Obviously, everybody wants the mermaid wax figure, and then the other one changes, alligator or whatever animals that we want to focus on.
It's neat, and it's only $2 too. It's one of the most fun souvenirs you can get, isn't it?
Exactly, and there's such a big following for people collecting these Mold-A-Ramas, and I wish I still had a lot of the ones that I collected when I was a kid, because they go for pretty good money on eBay. But people do collect them, and I remember when this thing first came, I immediately got one to have on my desk. And it's a great souvenir to have. It's an old Florida souvenir.
Absolutely, thank you.